Hello, everyone. Welcome to the latest edition of Walter's World, the podcast series from Astadia. For those of you who may not know, Astadia is an industry leader in helping organizations move mainframe to the cloud. And this podcast series is devoted to bringing in industry experts to help you understand the options that you might have as you consider your options to the mainframe. Today, I'm excited to have an old friend of mine, Erik van Enk from Microsoft. Erik is a mainframe and mid-range global black belt working for Microsoft, specifically in Europe, the Middle East, and Africa. Erik and I first met, I think, back in about 2015 or 16 in Amsterdam, and I've really enjoyed following his career since that point in time. Erik, thank you so much for taking the time to be with us today.
Thank you.
Erik, I mentioned that we go back a long ways. Could I get you to tell our audience a little bit about your background and specifically as it relates to what we're talking about today with mainframe and cloud working together?
Yeah, if we go back, then I'm in the IT industry for more than 30 years already. And I think the last 15 years are always related to, let's say, legacy modernization. Starting with other companies and now ending with Microsoft nowadays. So it's still one of the things which is, it becomes more like a hobby for me almost.
Yeah. We are blessed that we get to work in a field that we really enjoy and one that there are new technologies, new advances every single day. So I don't think we're ever going to get bored, are we?
What new is tomorrow will be legacy the day after. So I think this is a continuous also integration, let's say, that we help customers in a better way, helping them to renew their IT environment. And that's why I like this specific topic the most. Yeah, I did a lot of other things in between next to it, but this was always in my favor. Yeah,
I can understand that. Erik, I mentioned that you were a global black belt. For those people listening in today who may not know what that means, could you kind of describe what the global black belt program within Microsoft entails and what that means for you?
Yeah, so the global black belt part is really in Microsoft internal a phrase, let's say. So if you want to call it externally, it would be the expert on legacy modernization. So we have sales teams in front of customers, and we are in the virtual teams of these sales teams and helping them on a specific topic. So we have them specific for SAP on Azure or VMware, and I'm doing this work for mainframe and mid-range transformations.
Makes sense. There are obviously some unique considerations related to mainframe. So people like you have that experience and understand the ways that the mainframe way of doing business can work in the cloud has to be really helpful and instrumental to customers so that you can help lead them to that new direction.
Yeah, and if we always say internally, Microsoft, if you touch it, you own it. And from this specific topic, it's a role where you can help customers from the beginning to the end, starting advisory, what's your strategy? So there's no single answer for all the questions, and that makes it good, but also complicated sometimes for customers to understand what can I do? And based on the 15 years experience, I know the ecosystem of partners like you very well. Some of them, I know them also already. Mario Mays, one of your other colleagues, I know him for 15 years already. So this is really a sort of a family, and it makes it good to help customers every time again when you face a specific environment or a specific language, a legacy language, then it's then I need to go to Astadia, or perhaps there is another migration partner who can help this customer in a better way, and then it's easy to switch and help the customer. And the role I'm in is just to facilitate and support the sales teams, but of course the customers, and it ends up sometimes in a very good way because you become a sort of a trusted advisor for the customers. And for a customer in the Nordics, which makes a lot of fun, they asked me to do the QA for the project. So we are not people coming in, selling the stuff and leaving again. No, we are here from the start to the end, and we only satisfied if there is a successful project ending, and then we shake hands and go to the other one. So it's quite a diverse role that makes it interesting for me. And yeah, as said, there is no single answer for all these questions. So that makes it also challenging. You always step in a new way of migrating, even though you know a lot of it. It's always challenging and sometimes complicated to give the good answer to the customer.
Absolutely. As we all know, there are no two mainframe environments that are exactly alike. Right. They all have their own characteristics and different technologies.
Yep.
And trying to bring in that tribal knowledge and be that trusted advisor. I know Microsoft has always focused on that. And I hope we at Astadia have done the same to say, we're not trying to sell you a solution. We're trying to be your partner to help you get to where you want to go. And that's when it's fun for us, when we get to see people be successful like that.
Yeah, and together, companies like Astadia in combination with Microsoft, we are really able to unburden the customer in his challenge. Yeah, and that makes that we always end up with a smile by the end of the day.
That's right. Erik, my very first mainframe migration, I'm almost ashamed to admit this, was back in 1994, and we did it by hand. We didn't have a clue what we were doing. We didn't know what to look out for, and we sure discovered a bunch of things. So being able to help an organization that has always done things the same way for the last 30, 40, 50 years, to know what to look for, I've got to think that's a very exciting part of your job as well, to be able to help guide them through this process.
Yeah, true. And in the beginning, we in your time, you was even earlier than I, but my first migration was in 2005. I thought we were the first one in the Benelux based on the micro-focus tooling. Now, most of us, we are well known about the micro-focus tooling. And it was a challenge because it was the first time CIO had a trust on us, but we were still facing some issues. But together with Micro-Focus and with partners like you, we could manage it. And then drinking a glass of champagne when the CIO is switching off the mainframe, that's the best moment you can get. And the big difference from that time and now is that there were also some mainframe providers who were, let's say, not really happy with our approach, and they said, "Oh, you can't do this." And in the beginning they said, "You can't do this. Yeah, perhaps up till 500 MIPS, but above 500 MIPS, that's not doable." And so we came with the first 1,000 MIPS migration. And then they say, yeah, the first 1,000, that's doable, but if it's above 2,000, then it's not possible. And we came with a 5,000 MIPS migration. So, and nowadays, to be honest, I work with IBM and Kyndryl as well on mainframe optimization. So the whole market is changing and always setting the customer on number one. And that's good to see that the whole legacy modernization area is just focusing on how can we help customers in the best way. Absolutely. Even though sometimes it's hard and difficult. If you tell IBM, or you're in a conversation with, for example, IBM, and you tell them we bring the customer off the mainframe, sometimes that's hard for them. But there are other cases where we try to find a way bringing the best of both worlds, let's say, mainframe and the cloud environment in a hybrid situation, and then everyone is happy.
I think that hybrid component is key to what, especially these larger organizations like you know, starting out with the 100 MIPS and 500 MIPS and 1,000. Today, like you, I suspect, we're talking to organizations that are 100,000 and 200,000 plus MIPS who are seriously considering whether it's hybrid or integrating some components of cloud into their environment, which makes it exciting.
Yeah. If you ask my colleagues within Microsoft what my ambition is, and it's not a secret, I want to do my first 100,000 MIPS migration.
That would be a great one to work on.
Myself. Yeah. So
Absolutely.
everyone is laughing about it, but it's my real ambition. So let's see if it works out at the
I
end.
have faith that you will get there.
Yeah. Yeah, but you see nowadays we do migrations of 20,000, 30,000 MIPS. And 10 years ago, we weren't even able to think about it. And now we're doing it. So yeah, why not have the ambition to do the 100,000 MIPS migration?
Absolutely, I agree. Erik, I'd like to ask you, from your perspective, why are organizations looking to cloud to transform their core applications on the mainframe today? What are some of the driving factors?
What I see out of the field is there are three components mostly. That is the agility. So how can I speed up my time to market? The other one is mostly cost driven. Can I get a cheaper run environment? Because as a CIO, you always, one thing for sure, every year your budget will reduce. So you need to become creative to find some money to do some innovative things, because on the other hand, you get less budget, but your contracts, your recurring contracts will increase every year. So then the only way mostly you can find money for innovation is reduce your run cost. And this is really good to do. So that's the second one. So agility, cost. And the third one is the skill shortage. We see people like us, we coming in an age that we are still need to work for 10 years or 5 years, but we see that the first bunch of people are going with retirement now. And it will be bigger and bigger and bigger for the next coming years. And that's a big concern for companies, because how do I secure my continuity? My maintenance will need to go after these people left the company. So, and how do I keep my knowledge into the company? So I think that's the third major reason why customers thinking of a legacy modernization.
Interesting you mentioned about the skill shortage and people retiring. I often hear about, oh my, it's horrible, we can't find COBOL programmers. I tend to think more, oh my, it's horrible, we can't find systems programmers and assembler programmers and natural database and IDMS programmers. And that becomes a real challenge for people. So I absolutely hear the same thing that you're mentioning there, especially about the skill shortage.
Yeah, and several years ago, we heard that, then we asked, with all the respect, we asked the Indian providers, and they can come up with some very good legacy code developers, but also these people are having ambitions and into the new, let's say, code like Java, .NET, and the new things after it. So yeah, it's harder and harder every time to keep the people or get new one into your organization. So then as a customer or as a company, you need to be more flexible for adopting new technologies.
Absolutely. Erik, I think this is kind of evolutionary. I'd like to know your thoughts on it. Do you feel that today the cloud has become kind of like the de facto destination when people were, considering mainframe migration alternatives?
Yeah, we both started in the area that you did a migration on-prem. So you went off mainframe and you go to on-prem. And nowadays, I think most of the requests we get is going to cloud. So we see, and especially for new projects, mostly it's cloud first, even though companies are hesitating to doing the first steps, let's say. But yeah, we see more and more that how can we adopt cloud to maintain our mainframe workloads, and there are multiple ways to do. But with cloud, you create more flexibility and scalability to achieve your performance, or if you are a tax authority and you need to have a sort of a peak on your mainframe for 2-3 months a year, why would you buy a new, really, really expensive mainframe? Well, there are other ways where you can buy the peak for just the moment you need it. So yeah, from that point of view, and it's you see some hesitation on customer side, but also per country. So it's not that this is a general answer, but yeah, we see mostly that now it's mostly a cloud first, and you need to have a reason that you want to stay on-prem. But there are still customers getting off to an on-prem world, but then still they come to us and asking for advice. I did my first phase, getting off the mainframe to an on-prem world, but my next phase would be, can I make my my applications cloud native, and what would be your advice and next step? So yeah,
we're seeing the same people that have moved off of the mainframe on-prem now coming back and saying, just as you said, okay, I'm ready now for that next step.
Yeah,
let's strategically figure out how we do that together.
Yeah, and sometimes they did it to, let's say, create a sort of a self-funding project, because if you see the TCO savings on replacing your hardware, your infrastructure, with this saving, you can fund almost your next stage, making your applications cloud native. So yeah.
I absolutely agree. Now we talked about people being able to transition. What do you figure are some of the biggest inhibitors in these transformations? In other words, why haven't we done more yet?
It's still the hesitation. So companies looking around who is doing first, or who is going first, and we are lucky that there are some real innovative companies stepping in this market, and they did already the migration. So you see now more and more that companies asking for advice. But sometimes it's also the unknown. Is it possible to bring my mainframe workloads into cloud? How? And who can do this? So it's the unknown sometimes, but it's you see the biggest blockers we solved already. We did it on multiple languages, and not only COBOL. But you see migration partners on specific for Unisys or specific for AWS Natural. So we can show companies that they are not the first, and we bring these companies, the new companies, also in contact with the companies who did it already, to spread the word. Don't trust us, but perhaps you can trust a company who did it already. And what is their journey, and perhaps you can prevent some things they went through in your project.
Yeah, we view it kind of as a snowball effect. We as vendors and partners can suggest, yes, this is certainly doable. But I think when companies see other companies in their industry achieve this, when they see their competitors achieve this, it makes it much easier for them to get used to the idea and accept that maybe is not only this possible, but it's the right thing to do, so that I can stay competitive and I can be as agile as my competitors. So it's a fun time in the industry, no doubt.
Yeah, and I think that's part of our added value, that next to telling the story about cloud and Microsoft, we can also take them on a journey, because we know the customers who did it based on our experience. Mostly we have the contacts as well. And then that's the first step, and vision, and see what is all happening around you and what is possible. And sometimes I face customers asking me, I want to go off my mainframe. And then I ask, do you have already some cloud experience? Did you bring already some workloads into our cloud or other cloud environments? Because you don't want to bring your crown jewels first. So try an experience with other workloads. And then I advise to wait and first start migrating, let's say, other workloads than mainframe into the cloud, and create enthusiasm, see how it can help you, become more trustworthy in the cloud journey, and then have that discussion on how can we bring your crown jewels off your mainframe into the cloud environment.
It makes sense to kind of build off of those experiences, taking the right size steps at the right time. Talking about time, Erik, from your perspective, why is now the right time to act for organizations, and how can companies like Microsoft and Astadia help in that?
Yeah, I think we've mentioned a thing. An important thing is the skill shortage. So that's a time-related item which you can't stop and say we wait. And so I think that's a big driver for companies to think of getting off the mainframe or discovering it. And based on our experience, your company and Microsoft together, we did it before. I think that's a big win. And yeah, why now? Sometimes it's cost driven from the business, the drive to speed up the time to market, but mostly I think the skill shortage is a big problem.
Agreed with you, sir. I'm interested to know, do you feel that most organizations are looking to just replicate what they're doing on the mainframe when they move to the cloud? Or do you find that they're trying to enhance, become more agile in their applications? Or is that a multi-phase approach that you feel most people are taking?
Yeah, if we take our customers on the journey, then we talk about 4 migration patterns based on the 7 R's from Gartner. We try to make it a bit simpler. And then we have to migrate, to transform, the re-envision, and the extend. So the first 3 are really focusing on getting off the mainframe. And the migrate, for example, we mentioned already Micro Focus, but Anubex, these are companies helping you replacing your infrastructure, but you can keep your legacy code. And the second, to transform, is not replacing just your hardware, but also transforming your legacy code into Java or .NET. But then it's still a one-on-one. And luckily, we are seeing this market is growing really good in a good way, because I think you and we know that in the past, we had companies who picking up 1 line of COBOL, bringing it to one line of Java. And at the end, you have sort of a JOBOL, a mix, which was hard to maintain. So you did a successful migration, but you was not successful to your organization, because these applications, these code was not maintainable afterwards. And now you see companies stepping in with a lot of better tooling and creating almost plain Java and plain .NET, which is maintainable afterwards. So that's still one-on-one. And the other is the re-envisioning. So I always say, if you have all the time and all the money, then this would be the best way to get off your mainframe, starting from scratch, using all the new technology like containers and DevOps. But not every company has all the time and all the money to do such a thing. And these projects are mostly more complex than the migrate and the transform, I would say. So if you see our migration patterns, I see the most traction on the migrate and the transform. And because it's proven, it's really now fast. You can't say it's fast, but you have an average timeline from, let's say, 2 years. So you can go to your CFO and explain him that you have a project with a return on investment within 2 years' time. It's not always doable, but we see projects within 2 years or around 2 years. And it depends on the complexity and how big your environment is. And nowadays, we see also companies just thinking of getting best of both worlds, going into an extend version first, and going hybrid with cloud and mainframe. And you see in the environment, in our market, you see a lot of competition over there as well.
Absolutely. We at Astadia are firm believers in risk aversion. The beauty of the mainframe is it works the same way every single day, giving great results with great performance, and protecting that, getting off of the mainframe in the same way, and then strategically deciding where you can get the biggest benefit from modernization and transformation, leveraging the things that the cloud provides, not to just do it for do its sake, but to say, what's going to allow me to keep the risk to a minimum and get the biggest benefit. That I think is really key.
Yeah, yeah. And sometimes you see the real mainframe diehards still thinking that it's not doable and complaining about our initiatives. But I think let's help each other, because we can't do such a project without the experience of these diehard mainframe experts. So I think we need to combine our strengths and find the best way for the workloads and the environment for the customer to make it stable and safe for the future.
I totally agree. I think that's very well said. We talked about technologies. Erik, what are some of the new technologies that are out there that you're particularly excited about when you talk about people moving to the cloud and being able to leverage its capabilities?
Yeah, as said, you see the tooling becomes more mature over the years. What I like the most nowadays is that we can help customers. If they go to cloud, then cloud is not the only environment they have. So, and to try to make it more simple for customers, you want to have a sort of one management console, one management layer where you can manage all your environments. So how can I manage my on-prem and my cloud in the same time, and all my databases? And what I like the most, which is perhaps a new technology for me, it's really fun to explain to customers, is Azure Arc. It's a service which creates a way for customers that you can manage your whole environment from one management console. If it's on-prem, if it's cloud, if it's even multi-cloud. So if you have a customer who has a multi-cloud strategy, it's not only you can manage, let's say, your Microsoft Azure environment, but you can also maintain and manage your other cloud environments. And that's what I like the most.
That is huge, to be able to have a consistent, controllable, manageable environment that you get the holistic view of everything that you've got going on. That's key. That's critical.
Because at the end, I think from a business point, I don't care from a business side if it runs on a mainframe or another workload or in the cloud. I don't care. I just want to know that it's safe, that it's stable, and it's flexible for me, so I can build new functionality in it. And now still we talking about mainframe, cloud, different technologies. From a business point of view, I don't care. I want to have continuity. So if I, as a IT department, when I'm able to manage my whole stack of infrastructure and databases, then it's also easier for me to adopt new ways into my data center, into my IT environment, help the business in a better way.
Makes sense. Erik, you mentioned multi-cloud. I'd like to give you a chance to talk about if an organization does consider multi-cloud environments and strategies, why do you feel Microsoft Azure is the best platform for them?
Yeah, then to prevent that we end up in a sort of a sales story, but if I look at it from my point of view, and also before Microsoft, I think Microsoft Cloud is a cloud which you see the most in the enterprise. So for big customers with serious workloads, with a high expectation of continuity and safety, and I think Microsoft Cloud can make the difference there. Also based on Azure Arc, which is one of our, I think now, I didn't see it with our other hyperscalers. So for me, it's now a unique thing. And I think, and I hope that all our competitive hyperscalers will come up with the same initiative, because from a customer point of view, we need to have a good story for them. And I think we have some experience together based, for example, the reference case we have Astadia and Microsoft for the US Air Force.
Yes.
It explains that our environment helps you, even though it's mission critical. And seeing if you are in a situation that you need to manage the weapons for all your planes in the world. and you would make you create a problem over there, then oh gosh. So, and this runs for 2 years already in our Microsoft Azure environment, mission critical for the US Air Force.
Yeah, that's one that we are both obviously very proud of. I can't think of an application more mission critical than that.
Yeah, so I think why Microsoft Azure? I think we have a proven track record with mission critical workloads. And that's it. That's based on experience and not only on a sales story.
Fantastic. Thank you, Erik. Looks like we're coming up close to the end of our half hour. I'd like to just kind of close just asking, do you have any advice you'd like to share for organizations that are out there today looking for cloud as an alternative for them if they're on the mainframe?
Yeah, first of all, if there are companies telling you it's easy, don't trust them, because it's don't take them serious. It's a really serious business we are in, and that's why I always start with, what is your strategy as a company? Where do you want to go to? Even before you think on a mainframe transformation. And then if you know the strategy, then you can also find ways to choose the best migration way to getting off the mainframe, if it's a migrate or transform or whatever. If you choose, for example, for a emulation, then you don't solve your skill shortage, because you still maintain your applications in the legacy code. So these things are important for the next steps, and then doing a good assessment. And having this discussion based on facts and not on assumptions, because again, it's really important, it's serious. And to prevent that you find some difficulties during the project based on an assessment, and that's also my experience, is that how often, because these applications are running for 10, 20, 30 years already. So if I ask a customer, do you use EC3 for assembler? Most of them will telling, no, this is just plain COBOL. And if we do such an assessment, then we see some really challenging code or workloads. And then it's good to know it up front, because then you can find the right solution and the right migration partner instead of stepping in and see what happens. So that would be my advice. And if you have all the facts on the table, then not only just stepping into a huge migration, but try to find a sort of an isolated workload on your mainframe and do a sort of an MVP, a minimal viable project, and convince each other that this will work. And then still, as a customer, you have a go, no-go moment after the MVP. If you want to do the whole migration, or you think based on performance, latency, this is not what I had expected, then I need to make other choices. But make conscious choices every time again. That would be my advice, and we are more than willing to help you with it.
I think that is fantastic advice. We often say the devil truly is in the details, and understanding those details at the front end is key. So as always, you offer great advice.
Yeah, I think that's the first step before you even do something. Let's have that chat, and it's free of charge. So don't hesitate and call someone within Astadia or within Microsoft, and we are here to help you.
Absolutely. Erik, it has been a delight getting to catch up with you again. Thank you so much for taking your time today to chat with our audience. Really appreciate you being here.
It was really fun to do, and hopefully we see each other on the short notice again.
I'm looking forward to it. Thank you, my friend. And for everyone else, thank you for taking the time out of your busy day to join this podcast. Please check in at www.astadia.com to see what new and exciting podcasts we have upcoming. Thank you all, and I hope you have a fantastic day.
Bye-bye.
Bye, Erik.
Thank you.